Hey guys, Sarah here. So just going to show you guys starting out to make my fleece beanies, which are double layers. So first, before you even start cutting, you want to make sure that you have your fabric laid out. Typically fleece are usually one area is stretchy, so this area is not, so I lay it according so that the stretchy side can be facing the fold. So this is my pattern. I just fold it in half and then I lay it on the fold. So this is the length of the hats, and then this will be like the circumference, which is the part that you want stretchy. So after I determined that, because I have made the mistake of not doing that or forgetting that, and of course all of the patterns I cut I could not use for this project because it wasn't on the stretchy side. So I only made that mistake once. And so I just clip it. I usually go about a half an inch. I could make another pattern, but right now I'm making these for charity, so I'm just trying to cut out all of my fabric as quick as possible. So I just lay it down, clip it right there. I love this pattern because even though, and this is an awkward kind of position here, trying to cut this with the camera. Usually I would have this done a little differently, but I just wanted to get it on camera for you guys real quick, okay? So I will just cut it all the way around like so. If you guys can see, this is so awkward. What we have to do, right? Okay, so you'll need 2 of these pieces for the outer part of the hat, and then I had already cut out the inner part, and I'm just going to use this fabric. And of course I did do the test, make sure that I was cutting where the stretchy was for the circumference. So yeah, I will go ahead and proceed. Okay, so now that we have all of our 4-piece cuts, we want to determine the wrong and the right side. This fabric doesn't really have a wrong and a right, but this one does. So with this, you can kind of clearly see the wrong side is just a little bit not as defined. So what I do is, so I know that this is the wrong side too, so I lay both of them on the right side facing down, and then I will want this one, if it had a defined right side, I will want the right side facing up, but since it really doesn't, then I'm just going to assume this is the right side for this, and then put right sides together and clip it. If sometimes you cut a little longer, or maybe you went a little above the pattern, it's not that big of a deal. Like this is probably like a few centimeters or whatever, but no big deal. I just clip it. So it's right side to right side, and then same thing here. Pulling this one, assuming that this would have been the right side to this fabric, and then this is the right side to this one. I'm putting those 2 together, and I am clipping that. So right side facing each other, and we will clip it. And I'm going to bring my sewing machine out in just a second, and what we'll be first sewing are the ends where the clips are. We're just going straight down. I just do a straight stitch on this part, and make sure you go back a couple times in the beginning. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to show you guys next. Okay guys, so we now have the machine all set up and thread. I have our first item here. So I have the fabric, just to recap, right side facing right side, and we are going to sew one of the inner layer to one of the outer layer, right side facing each other. So I just have it set on straight stitch, and we're just gonna sew straight across. I mean these hats are really not you don't have to be super precise. I'm just doing about 1/4 of a allowance here. So, and excuse my terminology, some of it may not be the sewing terminology because I'm a new sewer, but hey, let's go. And usually I have a bunch of these cut, and I just keep going. I don't separate them, like, pull it out and cut the yarn or anything, cut the thread. I just keep going. So that's what I'm going to do with this. Take that clip off. I just match it close to it. And I already did my back stitch for that one. And then once I start this one, I do a back stitch for that. And I'm just doing it again. Okay, did a couple back stitches at the end there. And of course, when you sew, there's always a lot of cutting of threads. All right, so that's what we have so far. Maybe you can see it better. This is what we have so far. And you can go ahead, I'll just show you guys. You can go ahead and, if you have pinky shears, you can go ahead and cut the ends like this. To be honest with you, it really doesn't make a difference for me. Sometimes I remember to do it and I'll do it, but it really doesn't make a difference in the quality of the hats because I don't have any issues with this fabric. All right, but I did it. So what we do now, so what we have right now is this right here. So that's how it looks like. This is the wrong side, so you want to fold it, the whole thing on the wrong side. And what you want to do is, each of these, you want to sew all the way to the end. What I usually do, I'll sew it, about the 1/4 of an inch all the way down, and then as I get lower, I do an extra little curve, a little bit extra of a curve just to give that hat a more flat look on the top. So that's just what I do. Okay, so here I go. Make sure you didn't bump the camera there. So I have that in there. And I do my little back. And then right before I get to the end there, I do a little curve. And then I do it back all the way at the end. And you have to excuse, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I live in a state that every Saturday at noon, they test out the tornado sirens. So I guess it's noon right now. Sorry about that. All right, so again, I don't usually cut that. I'll just go ahead and put in, see what I'm doing right here. This is just the one I've just done. I'm not even going to cut it. I'm just going to flip it and get the end of the second one. You can separate it if it seems confusing, but that's just how I do it to keep the process going. So once I catch that first fabric, I'll go ahead and do a back couple of back stitches just to make sure. And then once I'm getting to that end, I do a little curve and do a back. All right. And just to show you how it looks like, and then I'll come back. Okay, so that's what it looks like. See how I did that little curve right there? And with these, I'll like don't cut into the stitch, but I'll just cut this little bit of tip off. And that's it. And then I'll just cut this little bit of tip off. And whatever thread I have, and that's it. All right, I'll be back. So now this is what we have. We have two pieces that we first joined together, and then we did the little top curve here. So now we have two pieces that look like this. And I do apologize, I have a very small working area. So just to open it up, so again, we want right side facing right side. So we have this long piece like that, and then we have the second piece, and that's the right side, and we're going to face them together. And what I do first, just to make sure everything lines up, I first go ahead and put these two sides together. And if they're off a little bit by any, don't worry about it. Just put them together the best you can and clip it. I use clips. I don't like pins. And then I do the same to the second side. And go ahead and clip that. And then I move over here to the top of it. Put that together so that matches the seams. And then I clip that. And then I'll go over here and do the same with this. Now use as many clips as you're comfortable with. I make these quite a bit, so usually just 4 clips work for me, but I'm going to go ahead and put in an additional clip over here because we will be leaving a about a 2-inch space to flip it inside out. So I'm just going to put a clip just for you guys to see. And my clips have threads in it. All right, so clip it like that. Okay, so I always do that on the inner lining part, and I do it up here just because it's more hidden. So yeah, that's how I go ahead and process that. So that's just to remind you to leave that space open, and then we'll sew all the way around, and we'll be right back. So I got the sewing machine set up. This is where we're starting. This space, like I said previously, is just to remind me to leave it open. So I'm going to take this second clip off because that's where we are starting the sewing process. Okay, so I have that loaded up. Again, estimated about a 1/4 seam allowance there for sewing. And I'm going to use the brown thread so you guys can see it, at least for this part anyway. All right, so I'm just starting out doing my back stitch. And again, still using just a regular straight stitch for that. So since I'm recording, I am going through this a little bit slower. But usually, once you do this a few times, you can go ahead and just zoom in it. Once I'm going over like the seam over here where I connected, it's a little thicker. So I just slow down because I don't want to risk breaking my needle. So I usually just slow down for the seams wherever the fabric gets thicker. Okay, so we're pushing the last clip. Take that out, do a back stitch, and pull off. So usually what I do a whole bunch in each process. But what we have right now is this little pale, whatever, oval shaped thing. So now it is time to turn that inside out. And so I will just flip that inside out. You can make the hole larger if you like. I like to make it a little smaller. As long as you back stitch before each part of the open there. I don't have issues with any ripping or anything. But if you feel more comfortable doing it larger, that's certainly fine. Alright, so I just flip it open. No super big deal. And I really don't do much. I go to the opening here that we have. And I'll just go ahead and tuck it in, tuck both of them in, do a little finger pressing. It usually stays just fine. And then I'm just going to do a zigzag stitch right there. Just, I don't know, I just like it because it makes sure I grab all of the layers. So I start a little bit before the actually open of the hole, just to make sure there's no chance of it ever ripping or anything. So I do the zigzag. I still do the back stitch. In the beginning and back stitch in the end. Okay. And then once I'm done with that, it is time to just put it inside out. So I just tuck all of this hat in here. Nothing major. Tuck, tuck, tuck. Okay, so with clips, I just make sure that it's covered where this part is not able to be seen on this side. So I just make sure it's just a little bit over. It's just me. You can do whatever you like. And I do a clip at the seam. And like you see how this seam doesn't match? That's perfectly fine. It's handmade. It's okay. I just make sure it's tucked in. And then we clip there. And then from here, I usually will clip somewhere in the middle. On the other side, I think I have some issue with always doing 4 clips, so that's what I'm doing. All right, and of course, you can do as many as you like. So when I'm happy with that, since this is pretty thick, I try to go a little slower with this part. So I usually get it under my machine somewhere, because I'm starting with the seam area. So I start maybe about 1 inch from the seam area. And stick my clip there. Slide it under the machine, because now the fabric is pretty thick. So I do try to go a little slower, because technically we're sewing, what is it, 4 layers? No, I'm sorry, well, it's still 2 layers, and then we have the brim. So I go a little slower. So I slide the machine. We're doing about a 1/4 again. I keep it on the zigzag because that gives it a little bit more stretch so that you're not busting the threads. If the head is larger, it just gives it more flexibility, I find. So let me get my... All right, so let's go. We have, do the quick back stitch there. I'm using brown thread. And I just make sure everything is looking good every 4 or 5 inches or so until I get to my next clip. And again, whenever I'm going over seams, I do try to go a little bit slower to not have any issues with needle breakage. So I'm just adjusting, everything feels good, and I'm just going along. Okay. Okay, and so I'm just adjusting, making sure everything still looks good. We are approaching the next seam. And doing my back a few times. And that is it, guys. So let me just cut these threads. Push my machine back a little bit here, guys. I wish I had a big, huge sewing room, but I don't. My room is for everything, including my home office. And this is actually my desk, so everything doubles around here. So let me go ahead and put this down a little bit. I know you can probably see my keyboard somewhere. All right, so this is how the hat looks like, guys. Get it in there. And this is how it looks. I think it's pretty cute. Put down a little bit here. I think it's pretty cute. And then you can also do the brim. And I love these because if you're in a really cold area, when you put the brim like this, you can actually stick the hand warmers on either side or anywhere in the front, on the back, wherever it gets colder, and that just warms your whole head and ears and all of that. So yeah, so this is how it looks like, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great day.